Hi, and welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesdays. Today we're going to be going over Excel basic styling. So, the very first thing we're going to start off with is more of a tip than a technique. Basically, leave A1, the cell A1 blank. Start your stuff in B2, and you can see my table here starts, technically there's nothing in B2, but that's the corner of my table of values here. But just leave a little bit of space around the edge of your table for readability. This is going to be a recurring theme for several of the tips later. Okay, secondly, font. So with font, there's two things we're going to be talking about, size and font type. Um, you can see right up here under the Home tab, you have your font size and your font type. And you have a whole bunch of different fonts to potentially pick from. You can see some of those I'll need to download, the ones with the little cloud icon. But I can download them. I can use whichever ones of these I want. But strictly speaking, it's a good idea for, again, readability to stick with the default, Calibri, or go with something like Arial or one of the sans serif fonts. Don't get too fancy with these. But if we want to change them, all we have to do is select the cells, click up here, and you can see previews of the new fonts being changed right there. So we can change to Arial, just click here, and now everything is Arial. The one exception to getting a little too fancy with fonts that came up in some of the stuff that I read on this is you can get away with a different font for your header row than the rest of your data, but you really don't want to use more than two fonts in your entire sheet. So if I wanted to just select these and make those Calibri, that'll work okay because that helps differentiate my header row from my data. This works the same way for font size. Probably want the header row to be a little bit bigger than the data, but you want everything after that to be uniform. So as my header row is already selected, I'll just go ahead and click in the size drop down here, and we'll just make it, we'll go to 14. You see it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more readable now. Okay, so color. The two color controls are again under the Home tab right here, which is for the fill color, which is the background color, and here, which is the actual text color. So if I wanted to, for whatever reason, make this one red, I just click like so, and it's red. And I just use Control Z to undo that really quickly, which is, you can never really emphasize enough. Control Z to undo, very useful. If I click here, it's going to make the background of that cell yellow, like so. And again, I'll go ahead and undo it. Again, it's emphasized that you should not go crazy with colors, and you should really keep an eye toward readability and colors that don't clash badly with one another. And really, if you want to apply color to your tables and your data, you probably want to go with an alternating color scheme so that it breaks up the rows, which we will get to now. Okay, so unfortunately Excel is still a little backwards in terms of applying alternating colors to data sets. Google Sheets is a little bit better on this. It actually just has a button that says alternating colors, but there are a couple of ways that you can accomplish the same thing in Excel. Probably the easiest way is what I'm going to do now, which is to convert your data to a table. So I'll go ahead first, left click, hold, and drag to select all of my data, my headers and my row names and everything right here. Then I go ahead and go up here to Format as Table and click on that. And then you can see it's giving me all of these different potential styles to apply to my data, and a lot of them have, say, a solid color or a more solid color for the header row, and then alternating colors for the rows below. So I can pick something like this, and it already has checked my table has headers. Always a good idea to check on that real quick because otherwise it'll apply the formatting incorrectly. Hit OK. And now, look at, I have alternating colors and a distinct color for my header row here. And you see all of it's of a theme. They're all shades of blue, and they're easy to read and pleasant to the eye. So you can see, though, that we have these little down arrow buttons here that you could use to sort the data of your table, which might be useful. Maybe you don't want that. It kind of breaks up the visual quality of your table a little bit. So you want to remove those, but you want to keep the color. So the way that you can do that is when you notice when I click down here, look at the tabs up here. We have View, Help, it goes to Search. If I click in here, all of a sudden this Design tab pops up. If I click there, it gives me table-specific options, functions, so on and so forth. Well, what I want is Convert to Range right here. I just click anywhere in my table, click Convert to Range, confirm yes, and now my data is here. It's still styled with the alternating color rows, and it doesn't have the little buttons on top. So now we're going to get to sizing and resizing columns and rows. So Excel includes this handy dandy little feature where if you position the cursor between two rows on the top here, if I double click, it will auto resize the column, in this case to the left, to be the size of whatever the biggest value is in that column. So I go like that, and it does that. Which is useful, except for the fact that it's now super cramped and kind of hard to read, so it actually isn't all that useful. So what was suggested in all of the reading that I did is that you really want to leave some room for your various columns and rows. So break it up a little bit, make it easier to read is the recurring theme, of course, of this video. So you can do that one at a time by dragging back and forth like this, and you can see I can resize a column, I can resize a particular row, so on and so forth. But that way I might end up with sort of stuff that's, I'm eyeballing, it might not be consistent. So what I'd really rather do is select all the rows I want to resize at once, and then just go down here and you can see column width. Now I can actually enter a number. So 6 is probably going to be a bit small, as you can see there, but I can undo that, and we'll go to 12 this time, say. And now you see it's spread out a little more nicely, there's a little more room to breathe. And so we also want to break up the rows over here, give a little more space there. So we're going to go ahead and select those by clicking on 2, holding on the Shift key, and then clicking on 8, and then it selects all the rows in between. And then right click, as you can see it says row height here instead of column width. The row height values, it turns out, are a little different than the column width values, so you need to go a little bit higher to get a little bit more room. But then you can see like so. Now, you may think that you want to center everything, or I might have assumed that, say. But really, the suggestion was you want to keep your text data left justified like this is, your numerical data right justified like this is, and that really the only thing that you want to deal with is the column headers, which can be centered. So I can go like this, click on this to select the header row, and then I can just go right up here and center that content like so. Okay, so lastly, we're going to be talking about freezing rows and columns. So it's not obviously real important in a document this size, but if I had a much larger spreadsheet that had multiple pages of data that I had to scroll up and down to see all of, it would be really useful if the header column stayed on the screen the entire time so that I could see what I was looking at. Weirdly, to apply this to a row that is not the top row in Excel, you need to select the row underneath the row you want to freeze, go to the View tab up here, click on Freeze Panes, and then Freeze Panes, and that, for whatever reason, will freeze the header column that we actually wanted frozen. So again, remember you have to select the row underneath the one you want to freeze, go to View, Freeze Panes, Freeze, and as a corollary, if you want to unfreeze it, you go to View, Freeze Panes, and then just hit Unfreeze, like so. So again, and that'll stay with you as you scroll up and down. That's about it for basic styling, for Excel basic styling. Thank you for checking out this video. Please check out some of the other cool stuff that we have on YouTube, and have a nice day.